Hey, good evening. It's really great to have you here. Tonight, we're going to be reacting to Sinful Passions by Dimash. My first video with Dimash did so well that we're going to do another one. So, I'm going to give my first impressions and thoughts and respond to some comments that I've seen on that video. So if you just want to skip straight to the reaction, here's the timestamp for that. But otherwise, here are my thoughts. The first I've seen is there's a lot of people who are a part of his fan group, the Deers, so I've been told. And don't get me wrong, I am a fan of his voice and a fan of his music, and I looked into his biography of his life so far, and he is a wonderful person, great humanitarian. You know, I haven't met him personally. I don't know the kind of life he lives outside of the public view, so it's not for me to really scrutinize in depth as to the kind of person he is. But based off of what I've seen, he seems like a really great guy, and I love that, and the fame hasn't gotten to his head. Love all of that. Wonderful. You know, I think it's a huge flex that he has a near 8-octave range, that he has so much vocal control and mastery over his voice, that he comes from a line of musicians, that he's mastered several different styles and genres of music, that he's concatenated into a single unique style of singing, which I truly love because I think classical music is heavily underrated. So to have an artist come forward and be as popular as he is and kind of redistribute this idea of neoclassical music, I think that's wonderful. So with that said, I've seen comments also that have said he is objectively the best artist, and with that, I disagree. Not to say that he isn't a truly remarkable artist and an enigma in terms of what he's capable of, what he's mastered, and the unique presence he has on stage. But what I'm more saying is that music is a subjective experience. You cannot make it objective. And the reason I say that is you can make a list of everything that makes an artist great. And if that artist checks off every single box, no matter how specific you make your list, if they check off every single box, then you can say, well, this is objectively the best. And I have a bunch of people who agree with me, therefore it's indisputable. And I disagree with that. I think music is such a subjective experience and a personal experience. For me personally, even after reacting to Dimash's initial video, which again, I think is amazing, there was a voice teacher I had, and his voice was unlike anything I've heard before. You know, there's many voices like his. He was a true bass, and he sang for LA Opera, and his voice was just so sultry and smooth and deep and robust. And it was such an honor and privilege to study under him for the time that I did. And every time I heard him sing, he made me feel a certain way. He evoked specific emotions that I want for myself and brought them out of me every single time he sang. It was so unique to me, and nobody I know that I've shown his music to agrees with me in terms of him being the best vocalist they've ever heard. But for me, he is the best vocalist I've ever heard, because he evoked certain emotions from me when I heard him sing. There were things that I was envious of that he did that I loved. There were things that I just fell in love with, the specific timbre of his voice, the specific way in which he presented his art, and it moved me on such a profound level that I have yet to experience another artist that's able to do that. And I don't mean to say that, again, Dimash truly is an incredible enigma of musical, raw, and refined talent. You know, you can see that rawness that was overall carved, molded, and shaped to be this real incredible force of nature within music. But I offer this metaphor. Let's say that you're going into a museum and you see this grand monolith of a piece. And on this grand monolith of a piece, you see so many beautifully intricate details within the piece that every single time you look at it from a different angle, a different lighting, you just find something new and something more to appreciate about it. And over the years of analyzing this one particular piece, you just keep being more and more mesmerized because you keep identifying features about it that are just so unique and things that you've never noticed before. I definitely agree with that. You know, when I've seen the show Avatar: The Last Airbender, I've seen it a million times because I love storytelling, obviously. And almost every single time I find something new to appreciate about it, and I love it with all of my heart and soul. But with that said, if you go to the same museum but hang a left from the grand monolith of a piece and you find another piece, a much smaller, less detailed one, but it evokes certain emotions from you, and there's just something about the way the artist structured it and what the artist is trying to present to you that it just heavily impacts you personally in a very specific way. Nobody else has to agree with it or has to say that, yeah, you know, I feel the same thing, because it's a personal experience. You know, you don't need a community of people to tell you that something is great. You know, you can truly experience something in your own personal way that really just sends this message through your entire body saying, I really connect with this. And that's what I get in terms of the impressions I have with Dimash, where he has so many amazing features and traits going for him. His showmanship is incredible. His humanitarian qualities are very noble. His mastery and dedication and drive to the art of singing and music itself is not just incredibly admirable, but it's very easy to become jealous of, to become envious of. I heard the line that he said, if you open my heart, all you'll find is music. I think that's very profound and gorgeous. And I really just, at least from what I've seen, again, I haven't met him, so I can't really form a complete opinion on him as a person, but just from what I've seen in terms of his public appearances, he really seems like a truly genuine and beautiful person. And I absolutely love and adore that from him. And with that being said, I'm going to keep reacting to his music, and I think he's a wonderful and amazing person. But ultimately, I think something else that we have to keep in mind is he's a human being, and just recognize him that he is an incredibly gifted and incredibly skilled and talented artist who shares his music with the rest of us. And we are extremely privileged and fortunate to be able to live during a time where we're able to go to his concerts and see him perform live. Like, if I were to tell you that Mozart is the single greatest classical composer of all time, that might be met with contentious debate. In the idea that you can say Beethoven was. You know, his music is much more powerful, but Mozart's music is more iconic. Well, what about Bizet's music? Bizet wrote Carmen, and Carmen is one of the most well-known operas in the world. Or what about Humperdinck's music, who wrote the opera of Hansel and Gretel? What about Rachmaninoff, one of the most prolific Russian composers of all time? Or Aaron Copland, Leonard Bernstein. You have so many different types of composers that have excelled in very key ways that have ultimately helped shape music and our understanding of music into what it is today. They've all had incredibly powerful impacts on the music scene itself that it's so hard to discern what's more valuable than others. But if you're able to define it, that's wonderful. But just because you're able to define it for yourself doesn't mean you're able to define it for others. I think it's really beautiful that there's a huge community of people that surround him and that support him, because he absolutely deserves the support he's getting. It's very rare to find someone this deep in popularity in the music genre and still have this level of humanity and humanitarian goodness displayed forth. And he absolutely deserves love, recognition, and credit for that. Absolutely. But you have to recognize him as a human being. You know, I feel like we put celebrities on these pedestals of, if I ever met him, I think I would die, or I just wouldn't know what to say. And it's honestly the mentality of treat the janitor like you would the CEO. There's no reason to be nervous just because a person is a person. And they've made a lot of great skill and talent for themselves, and they've been able to broadcast that talent to the world, which is beautiful, and they've been able to touch so many people's lives. There's a YouTuber I watch, and his channel is decently sized, but it's also at the same time pretty small. And he has almost 1,000 uploads and and I have been absolutely in love with his content, and his content was just life-changing for me. It really altered my life in such a profound and dramatic way, and it really shaped the kind of person that I am today, is this person's particular content. But he's just a regular human being with a camera and just gives his thoughts. Even though he's had such a dramatic impact on my life, or has rather served as a guiding star for me in some of my darkest hours and darkest moments in my life, if I were to ever meet him in person, I would just be appreciative, but I wouldn't completely lose myself in him, because he's just a human being. He's flawed like a human being. And it's very similar to Dimash in that way. You know, you can't say that someone is perfect, because nobody's perfect. It just all comes back to the original point of it's a subjective experience. And human beings are imperfect people. And even though they have a lot of traits that we can envy and feel jealous of, which isn't a bad thing by any means, they're human emotions, and we should utilize them to our use in terms of, wow, I am envious of this person. Maybe I should take the initiative and have more of a drive towards pursuing something that I'm really passionate about. Or maybe I should really better focus on what it is that I really want to do through that kind of envy or jealousy. It doesn't necessarily mean that you need to show a sense of hostility towards someone that you're jealous or envious of, but rather use that as a source of fuel, as a source of inspiration. Something that I've realized is that emotions that we perceive to be negative, like anger or hatred or fear, jealousy, etc., it gives us a tremendous amount of energy. But oftentimes, because of our mental state, we waste all of that energy in punching something or screaming into a pillow or being passive aggressive, or whatever way that you release all of that hostile and aggressive energy. And if you're actually able to take that enormous amount of energy and put it behind you, kind of like a booster rocket, you can allow it to propel you forward to greater heights. And that is what I think is the most beneficial thing of jealousy, in terms of my own jealousy of Dimash. You know, I'm just a year younger than Dimash right now, and obviously his life is a lot more exciting than mine is, and he's able to travel the world and perform and be on stage and give his art to people and show his sense of overwhelming respect and love towards his craft and towards humanity itself, which I think it's a bar that I really want to achieve in my own life as well. I take great inspiration from Dimash in that regard, and I think that that's really a beautiful feeling to have. So with that said, I think Dimash is in my top artists for sure, but is he my greatest vocalist that I've ever heard sing? No, but he definitely is up there. But, you know, there's just other vocalists that I've had in my own life that have really impacted me in a really beautiful and profound way. And it's touched me on a personal level. It doesn't have to touch anybody else, because music is a subjective experience. So with all of those things said, I hope you guys don't rail me in the comments, but if you do, let me know your thoughts on that. I really do hope that you guys try to understand a little bit of where I'm trying to come from and the context that I'm trying to provide. But with that said, you know, I'm still really, really excited to jump into Sinful Passions by Dimash. I, again, really love hearing his voice. I think he's a truly one-of-a-kind artist. 1 in a billion, 1 in a trillion, honestly. And it's really remarkable what he's built for himself. And I'm really excited to keep listening to more of his music. So with all of that said, let's jump in, finally, to Dimash's Sinful Passions.
Как из лунного сна. О, если б знала ты, что мне нужна, только ты одна.
That breath. Chills already.
Линии долгие лилии,
Oh, and his vibrato is so consistent.
Были ночи без сна, но в стуже сердце озарило, как весна. Только ты одна. Дай мне, дай
Those breaths.
долгим огнем пылать во мгле и в ненастье.
Nice cutoff.
Дай мне,
Oh, and it's more robust now. I like that. Oh, oh yeah, feeling this.
ночью и днем сгорать в костре грешной страсти. Ночь сомкнула ресницы.
His head voice is so lovely too.
И вокруг тишина. Забыты звуки, руки, лица. Не нужна только ты одна. Околдован тобою.
Nice lead-in.
Выпью зелье до дна. И ты вернешь меня из бездны в этот мир. Только ты.
Ooh, that break. Great choice.
Дай мне, дай
Oh, the way he touches that. Oh,
долгим
lovely.
огнем пылать во мгле и в ненастье. Дай мне,
Just filling up that space. Ah, and that belt. Ah.
ночью и днем сгорать в костре грешной страсти.
Ooh, love that vowel. There it is. Oh! Ah, I'll talk about that later. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh, chills. What trills. What vocal trills. Incredible. And these breaks so controlled. Oh my gosh. The way he attacks that. And his belts. Oh, yes. Oh, his cadences. Oh, and his flow. Oh my god. Yeah. Oh. Oh my god. Just that moment at the end when it's such a great moment in terms of just singing and performing in general. The moment you finish the song and you just feel the curtain falling, not literally, but just in their body. You know, you can just feel this complete shutdown of what just happened throughout the piece. And I already looked at the lyrics beforehand this time. Yeah, it's very beautiful. It's very beautiful and very powerful, very potent of a piece. And overall, it's really remarkable. The last time that I performed something with that level of emotional intensity was Schubert's Der Doppelgänger. And I just remember the moment I finished singing it for the first time, there was just this overwhelming feeling of poignancy and catharsis that just overcame me in that moment. And it's really an addicting feeling, honestly. So I can only imagine what he's feeling at the end of that piece. Wow, what an amazing performance. Yeah, let's jump into the analysis.
Ты явилась нежданно, как из лунного сна.
Yeah, and you just have that pop technique of just kind of leading in with not this really robust sound, but this very gentle, delicately put sound that's still being vocalized, but not to its fullest, broadest extent. Very, very good introduction so far. And the fact that he allows that breath to take it away at the end. Again, there is an intuitive flash of vocalize it, but that's just more my classical training coming through. And in terms of the style and in terms of what it is that he's communicating, I think this is ultimately a really good choice on his part, and it's really something special.
Как из лунного сна.
Ooh, and just that gentle mic technique too. Just nah. So you can kind of get that slight pull from the sound. And since you're already so invested in him, either through the entire performance or the song specifically, you've already created a connection. So when he drops that mic a little bit, you feel that distance a little bit. And you're like, no, I don't want that distance. Let me get closer to you. And that's a really ingenious thing. It's so minor, but it's so, you can feel that impact of, why are you distancing yourself? Let me get closer, you know? I love that.
О, если б знала ты,
Yeah.
что мне нужна, только ты одна.
Yeah, and his cadences just flow. Everything is so legato. Nothing feels sharp or really cut. It's just very smooth, a very gentle wave of his music. I love this vibe.
Линии долгие линии.
Yeah. And his vibrato so consistent.
Были ночи без сна.
Ooh, yeah, and that vowel, na. It's a very bright vowel. Normally in classical music, you'll hear a lot of dark vowels, like I mentioned in the last video. But in this one in particular, it's very bright, but you can feel its poignancy, its somberness. So that brightness doesn't necessarily carry away with the real atmosphere that it's projecting onto, if that makes sense. It's more like, it's like a yellow light is being beamed down, but it's a muddy yellow. You can feel this aura of somber. You can feel this aura of, yes, while the sun is shining, it's not shining because everything's great in the world. It's shining because it needs to, but I'm still here, and I am not in the sun, even though it literally is. I am not, because of the emotions that he's projecting through his music. And all of that can be read through the subtext of this one vowel. You know, it's really remarkable, the subtext that music and specific stylistic choices can really provide. And it's something I love about singing specifically, because in instruments, you might change the way that a particular sound is being made, or particular notes, or the way it's being played. But at the end of the day, your instrument is your instrument. But with the voice, you can manipulate it in so many different ways. Vowels are so intrinsically unique, especially depending on each language you sing in. This piece is so stylistic to his particular unique style, and it's so powerful and beautiful. And it just feels like he's engaging all of the subtext on top of his already beautiful outer shell of musicianship. I love this.
Но в стуже сердце озарило, как весна. Только ты
Yeah, and that breath, like that's very chosen again, because it's not just the breath in his music of da. You can feel that level of breath in his voice, but the way that he breathes, he's breathing into the mic on purpose. That is very chosen, that is very specific, and it just adds to this atmosphere he's creating for this particular piece. Really, really well done stuff.
Долгим огнем пылать во мгле и ненастье.
Yeah. Yeah.
Дай мне, дай мне.
Right there. Дай мне, дай мне. Just that really broad sound he did there. It's not just a ramping up of the piece itself, because you're so connected to him and he's leading the charge, he's leading the way in this piece. You're running with him. You know, you were walking before. You were walking right next to him. And now all of a sudden he took that powerful step forward into these rising actions until you reach this climax. And oh my gosh, I just love how known he says, all right, now I'm taking it to the next level. Really great. You really feel this with him, and I love that. Love it. Love it when you can feel the artist's intentions. And his timbre is so lovely. Yeah, and that's a really great choice too, because you felt that rising action like I mentioned, and then all of a sudden he goes into his head voice where it's almost deceptive in a way, because it is very light, it's very gentle, very similar to the opening, only because it's in a different register, it does have a different texture to it. It has a different feel, a different layer, and you're really just kind of trying to figure out, okay, well, the beginning was a little low and breathy, and this is also breathy, but it's in a different register of his voice. So it creates this different tone, this different kind of sensation in your body, and you're just really experiencing this music with him, and experiencing what this piece means, and experiencing everything that he's communicating, not just through his outer layer of musicianship, but through his subtext. And this is the sign and mark of incredible musicians. Really one-of-a-kind stuff here. Back to that breathy taper. Good choice. Love the triangle. Yeah, and just that really gentle. It's just it's so light and it's so breathy, and it just feels like you're on a cloud, but it's so intimate. And it just gives you chills because of its intimacy. He is reeling you closer, but guiding you through this very light. Like if you've ever walked early in the morning through that early morning fog, and you just feel that cool, cloudy air just completely encompassing you as you're just walking through it. There's something just so blissful and simple and pure about that. Love this. It's so poignant. Oh, yeah. And just that hit of that pop technique with that really smooth legato, with that robust sound still in his mixed voice. So good. He's just creating all of these textures, and he's just transitioning between them just so seamlessly. I love this, man. I'm in awe, truly. Yeah, and just the way that he's communicating with his body language too. You can feel that it's not just what he's speaking or it's not just what he's singing, but it's the way that he's expressing it. Gorgeous. Love that. Oh, hold on. Ooh, that gentle rolled R there. Oh, it just perfectly carries into the next note. And it's so subtle and so quiet, but it's so, oh man, it's ineffable. So typically when you sing classically, when you do hums, it's the idea of you have like a golf ball in the back of your throat. So when you hum, you keep this really big open space and allow the sound to travel through your mask. Like, and you could just feel this openness in comparison to something a little bit more sharp, a little bit more forward, and a little bit more clenched. And but here it's both open, yet it's very forward and directed. So it's not completely breathy like it was in the beginning. It does have that sharp pop genre kind of direction through your mask, through that bridge of your nose. And it's so perfect because listen to this. Yeah, right there. Just this really gentle, not as robust or filling, but it's very intimate and very personal. And then you get this really nice, gentle, yet very focused hum. And he's still kind of guiding you, but it feels like a squiggly line almost. Just kind of like you feel like a leaf in the wind almost, and the wind is just kind of pushing you in these different directions. And then he just kind of attacks this note right after that hum, and the hum just kind of tapers. Yeah, and it just, he hits you, but then immediately backs off of it. Very, very much like a very gentle sforzando. And it's so delicate. Everything is so delicate. It's handled with so much precision and care. And I deeply admire his ability to have so much control and utilize this control in a way that's so beautifully impactful for the listener. Whether or not you're a complete novice to music and you just listen to it casually, or you're an expert in it and you can really find these subtextual details. You know, it's just magnificent. Yeah, and his ability to attack in any of his registers, what a skill. What a skill. And what a refined skill at that. Nice legato phrase. Yeah. Oh, yeah, and that there too. You have this more classical style in that first attack. Deine. And then you have that immediate pop belt into the next one. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You just get these textures, but you're still being pulled by him, and you're still feeling that close intimacy, and you still really understand what it is that he's communicating, not just in his musicianship, but in his subtext. And it's so good. Oh, and his body language in this moment. You, like, he switched the mic and then just really let it out, because he's adding contrast in terms of what it is that he wants to show the audience, not just in terms of, again, his music, but in terms of his showmanship. So when he's holding it and he's kind of creating this atmosphere, but the moment that the music really has this rising action, he switches, puts his hand out, and he's really now communicating directly to everyone, not just having this personal, intimate experience with himself, but now he's really just really presenting it all out there. Yeah, just before that power here. But it's not overwhelming power, it's very soft power. And what I mean by soft power is it's very directed power, but it is in his falsetto, so it's not going to have as much oomph in his, like his chest voice would. But it still has this incredible level of precision and incredible level of accuracy and directed concentration of vocal technique and pedagogy that everything just comes together to form this incredible showmanship. It's so legato too. Oh yeah. And let's talk about that really quick, right here. Yeah, like I was mentioning earlier, when he did those breaths intentionally into the mic to create that atmosphere, just that breath he did there, right here. Even though the breath cuts off the note, you can tell that it's just, it's proper breath placement. And I can't emphasize how critical proper breath placement is. If I were to tell you a phrase that just randomly stopped in the middle of it, you know, you'd think that rather bizarre, probably. And the fact that you have just a vowel, a sound, but it flows with the cadence, and you don't even notice it when you're hearing it for the first time because it's just so seamless. And it's not audible because of his mic technique. He's not breathing into it. He very specifically wants you to hear very specific things. And I love all of this. Let's listen to that again, actually. Yeah, and those chromaticisms. Okay. His hand seemed a little tense there, but that's probably a little bit more critical than I want to be probably right now. But if your hand is really tense, then you might have a little bit more body tension, which might constrain your voice a little bit. I'm sure it is just for that effect though, which is still really coming through in his voice and in his body language. So overall, I'm not going to be critical of it. Just something to point out. Yeah, and he just has this huge open body, just really exposing himself like that. That's a very Freddie Mercury thing to do. And Freddie Mercury is one of the greatest, in my opinion, one of the greatest showmans of all time. Just really remarkable stuff. And I know I saw in a comment that Dimash is inspired by Queen, which, understandable. Queen is amazing. I love how open he is with not just his voice, but in his body. He's really exposing himself and showing this immense power, or showing this immense vulnerability from a position of immense power. And I love that. Really lets you know how comfortable you are riding this ride with him. Like I mentioned in a former video, if the artist is uncomfortable on stage, you're going to feel uncomfortable and you're never going to want to see them again. You don't want to spend money feeling uncomfortable for a person on stage. And when you go into a show like this and the artist just exudes, he bleeds out this tremendous amount of confidence and strength and power and passion, you just can't help but not only be in awe of it, but have this level of envy, have this level of desire to keep following him. In terms of music, he is definitely the leadership type. Like, you just want to follow under him. It's incredible. Yeah, and that taper off, that note, that incredible note. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that right there, too. Those vocal trills where you're just constantly breaking, that is an incredibly hard technique. So much so that I've only met one other vocalist in my lifetime that was able to do it, and he was a vocalist from Africa. And I'm not quite sure where he learned it, but I have heard the technique used before, but it's such a challenging technique to really master. An example for being my voice is it's very weighted, it's pretty heavy, and it's not easily able to touch notes and to be staccato. You know, I really have to work at it for it to be really light and airy and to hop from note to note really quickly. The music that is better suited for me is more lento, legato type of slow, but yet really powerful music. I'm not an assassin, let's say. I'm a tank in terms of my vocal ability. if you're into that more nerdy stuff. So with that kind of technique, it's also very forward. It's very directed through his mask. So at this point in the song, after he tapers off that high note, now we're getting these trills that are very forward in his belt, in his mix. And it's so directed, and he's creating this completely new texture that we were originally in the clouds before, and now it feels like we're in this more warm environment, this kind of desert-like walk through this musical experience. You know, I really can't explain it. It's just feelings that I get, but I hope you can somewhat sympathize. Yeah, and just these breaks that he's doing in his voice, which are very intentional, really exact stuff. Even though I would say that learning to manipulate your passaggio, your breaking point in your voice, is not the most challenging thing in the world, I'd say that the level of control that he's doing it in this style, in this particular cadence, extraordinarily difficult to master. Extraordinarily. And what I mean by the technique itself isn't difficult, you'll often hear in pop music like you, or you. You'll either have the scoop up or this glide down, and it's pretty simple just to kind of figure, as long as you have your starting point, you can just allow your voice to slip into a note. You. Yeah, listen to this again. Do, do, do. But with that vocal technique, it's really great stuff. I love hearing how extraordinarily complex his style is. It's really amazing stuff. And his use of dynamic is incredible. Oh my gosh. Oh, look at this. Look at this. Just before he hit that note, you see in his eyes, you just see this immense focus. And the beautiful thing that I love about not just some classical musicians, but this particular artist, but Dimash himself, he does exactly what I love doing in music, which is something that I don't see enough of in performers, which is he's teleported himself in the world. Like, his brow is furrowed and his eyes are heavily focused. He's already built the world around himself. It's not even like he's performing for an audience, even though he knows he is. He's in his own world. He's developed a world specifically around this piece, and he knows exactly what he's looking at. He knows exactly who he's communicating to. He knows exactly what it is that he's performing, because what he's doing is a personal performance to himself, in a way. It's very intimate in his own regard, and he's just sharing that intimacy with others. But you can tell that the moment that the music started, he was already teleported into this world that he's created for this piece. Just with that very sharp, concentrated look in his eyes, you can tell that he's just one with the piece, without sounding too mystical. He really is just completely immersed in the world building of this piece, and it's honestly my favorite thing to see in an artist, is to see how captivated they are by their own music or their own art. Breathtaking. Oh, and the way he just did that vowel, listen to that. Yeah, and he just kind of clenches on that diphthong at the end, but not in a way that's really grindy, but die. And it just goes from this open ah to this closed E vowel, but it still had this amount of space that it didn't feel constrained or restricted in any way. And it was just so smooth and very powerful. The dynamic was a really good choice, and the cutoff was very clean. Really great stuff. So good. I can't comment enough on how good he is. It really is remarkable how every single detail is just so exactly chosen. Good belt. Oh. Oh! Oh, and that build! And it's not just, and that first note wasn't even the note that he was going into, like, he just made that note go higher and higher. Typically the band fills in the rest while you're just singing the same note, a same impressive note at that, and he just makes it more impressive by going higher and louder. Typically, the higher you go in your register, the softer it gets because the more difficult the note is to reach. Not for this guy. His voice is so good that he just has so much confidence and so much technique in his voice that he's just in it. And oh my god, it's so indescribable. It's so amazing. It's so amazing. I love this. Yeah, going back to that. That just, oh my god, dude, and just the way he trinkles. Oh my gosh, dude. Oh my gosh, dude. Oh, and that pop sound on oh my god. Oh my god, dude. I don't know how many times I'm gonna listen to this again and again and again, but I just have to. I have to. I'm sorry. Oh, it's such a good pop sound right there. Oh, and it's so smooth and there's no breath in it. It's just so consistent in his cadence. Oh my god. Just that. It's so gentle after that power he did, but it's still. But that gentle nature is still filled with so much power, so much residue from what he just did. Oh my god. It just looks like his guitarist is just completely mesmerized by what he's doing, too. Yeah. I honestly see what you all mean in the comments by you just never know what to expect in terms of what he's capable of in terms of his voice, and I will constantly continue to be immensely impressed with his technique and his range and his control and his just overall musicianship and his choices. Every great artist has their teacher, and I'm sure he has an incredible one that helps him produce and arrange and figure out exactly what it is that he wants to do and what would be better options, not just from his own perspective, but from an outsider's perspective as well, or rather a secondary perspective as well. But honestly, it's all just, he's an unassailable artist, really. What he's done for himself and what he's built for himself in terms of his ability to perform, his ability to execute very specific vocal techniques and showmanship techniques, often and this isn't even just in classical music, in theater generally, you have to always be outward facing to the audience. And he really just encaptures this strong Freddie Mercury vibe, like I mentioned earlier, where he's just so open and he's in his own world when he's performing. And you could just feel this enigmatic power incandescently radiating off of him. And that's one of the best things I've heard in a while, just in terms of technicality and technique. And his voice is just such a force to be reckoned with. I'm in awe. Honestly, I'm really shocked, and I love being shocked by artists. It really makes my heart happy knowing that there's people who put so much drive and devotion into their craft. It really means a lot to me as an artist. So, with all of that said, wow. Thank you all so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please go ahead and leave a like and a comment on what I can do to improve. and I figured out closed captioning, finally. So if there's a language that isn't within my closed caption box, then please let me know and I will add it as soon as I can. And yeah, what an amazing artist. But with all of that said, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your evening. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. And if you haven't done so, I would really appreciate you subscribing if you like the content. If you don't, then that's all right. I don't take any of the comments to heart. I really just want to do everything I can to improve my content overall for not just myself, but for all of you. And I'm always going to stay true to myself. I'm always going to stay honest and genuine in my opinions and critiques. So regardless of what people might say or think, fear not. I'm always going to be very genuine in my approach to music. Music means more to me than any one person's opinion. So with all of that said, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening. And I can't wait to react to more Dimash and other music and other content as well. Have a wonderful evening, everyone. Take care.